Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Napoleon and today we're back with another Enlisted video, and this time we're going to be back with our Enlisted weapon suggestions. And although it has been a long time me not doing this, I really wanted to start this up again because Enlisted actually has been pretty listening. For example, last time we did German wonder weapons and we had the Kuner's submachine gun. We also put the other machine guns such as the TZ-45 and other interesting weapons, and the Romanian weapons, which are very interesting. And so that's that. Of course, there are a lot of stuff that I can do, and although this video says weapon suggestions, technically the one I'm going to be reviewing today is also going to be weapons, and these are going to be planes. To be exact, Panzerquackers, as I like to call them. But needless to say, let's get started with this video. And of course, off the bat, this video also is going to be talking about essentially German planes that have heavy guns. And when I mean heavy guns, I'm talking about 37mm cannons, 50mm, and 75mm, and up to 88mm cannons on them. So that's going to be very interesting. Of course, this video has been made possible for friends at Discord, meaning that if you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined Discord, highly suggest that you do. But that said, let's get started. The first plane that we have up is the Ju-87G. With the G variant, the aging airframe of the Ju-87 found a new life with anti-tank aircraft weapons. Basically, the Ju-87 is a Stuka. This was the final operation version of the Stuka and was deployed on the Eastern Front. In the reverse of German military fortunes in 1943, an appearance of a large number of well-armored, should I say, Soviet tanks caused Junkers to adapt and design combat to these new threats. The HS-129, which is going to be featured later, is also proved to be a potent ground attack weapon, with its large fuel tanks made of vulnerable infantry, prompting the Germans to do it on the basis of the Ju-87, the Stuka. The variant also was to carry 1,000-kilogram bombs with its two 37, well, 1.5 inches cannons. Furthermore, the armor protection of the IL-2 will be copied for this crew, and ground fire from the Ju-87 will be reduced to conduct low-level attacks. In April 1943, the first production of Ju-87 G1s were delivered to the front lines. The two 37mm cannons were then mounted on underwing gun pawls, each loaded with two 6-round magazines of armor-piercing tungsten carbine-colored ammunition, which is a mouthful. With these weapons, the Cannonbird, or Kanonenvogel, is nicknamed and proved very successful in the hands of Stuka aces, such as Rudel. So that's going to be that. Essentially, this is going to be a Stuka armed with a 37mm cannon, and so that's going to be very interesting. I hope Enlisted adds this because it's going to be an interesting addition to Enlisted. Up next, we have the Messerschmitt 410A1U4. The Messerschmitt 410A1U4 and the Messerschmitt 410A2U4 became the most powerful armament available for the ME Messerschmitt 41A modifications. They were provided with a 50mm Rheinmetall BK cannon. This weapon was initially developed as an anti-tank gun with a 21-round drum magazine and reloading system, and was mounted in the bomb bay. The BK had no discernible effect on piloting the aircraft. However, the Me-10 flight characteristics were then slightly reduced due to increased aerodynamic resistance. Tests shown that aircraft with the BK-10 was able to target and destroy T-34s and KV-1s, as well as railway carriages, steam locomotives, star waterbowl vehicles. However, it turned out the standard sights were not suitable for the new fire weapons, so the BK-10 were fitted with other sights. Firing practice showed that the BK-10 frequently failed when firing long bursts, more than 5 shells, and the problem was solved with special automatic breakers limiting bursts to 3 rounds were introduced to flight unit controls. The ME-410 never had an anti-aircraft gun. Instead, the Hornets were armed with the 50mm cannons targeted American bombers. Field testing suggests that the B-17 and B-24 would have been forced to land in German territory, showing that the hit with only 150mm was enough to destroy a bomber. The principal perm was the most durable structure members of the aircraft and was easily destroyed when hit from one of the shells. The bomber's fuel tanks were also safely protected with sponges through shots with small caliber weapons would detonate them, although any shots from small caliber weapons will also detonate them. The BK-5 cannon shells turned in large pieces of the skin and the airframe of the inside. In theory, the German pilots would shoot down enemy planes while remaining out of reach of their defensive fire, but in real combat conditions, it was not so easy for ME-410 crews to win duels with escort fighters. Not only was the newest P-45, P-51 Mustangs, and P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings better, it was also the fact that they can turn faster. Hence, the BK-57K were installed on the ME-410, on the front, replacing the 20mm Mauser MG151 cannons and the Rheinmetall 17mm cannons. The ME destroyers, or Soresters, were equipped with BK cannons directly at the factory and retained to their standard armament. What this made was that they could easily destroy tanks, which was their intended purpose, although, as we can see, that fighting aircraft, it was more troublesome. But that's it, that is the ME410, a very interesting plane with 50mm cannons, and from this point on, it's just gonna get bigger. The next one up, we have the HS-129B3. This was essentially a 7.5cm cannon on the basis of the PaK-40 anti-tank gun, which was adapted for the Ju-88P1 and was further modified for the HS-129. As a result, the BK-7.5 this time was weighed about 1,200 kilograms and was lighter than the PaK-40. Fully automatic, it was featured a new hydraulic recoil dampening system and more aerodynamic muzzle brakes. An autoloader system with 12 rounds in a rotationary magazine was fitted into the empty space behind the cockpit and the rear of the wing-rooted area. The gun and its recoil mechanism occupied a substantial gun pod under the fuselage, and the circular port of the end will allow rearwards ejects to spend cartridges immediately after firing. Basically, it can just eject once it fires. While this new variant, the HS-129, was theoretically capable of destroying any tank in the world, the added weight worsens the aircraft's general flight performance and was inferior to previous variants. So essentially, think of this as a heavy bomber, but it's not that big. The BK-7.5 was the heaviest and most powerful forward-facing cannon to be fitted on any production military aircraft during World War II, with the exception of the next one that we're going to see. The other ground attack aircraft to be factory built with similar caliber guns were the B-25Gs and the B-25Hs, mounted with either 75 or M4 or lightweight T-13E1 or M5 version of the same gun. From June of 1944, only 20 samples of the BS-129 was arrived in front lines before the production line was shut down in September. That said, the B-3 provided effective against tanks and essentially any other thing that it could hit, assuming it could hit. But its small numbers and its limited flight capabilities hindered it quite a bit. But that said, let's move on to the next one. And the next one we have is instantly one of the most interesting ones that I could ever say, and that is the Ju-88. Now there are going to be a lot of variants with the Ju-88. For example, the P variant, the P1 should I say, is armed with a 75mm gun, and the P2 version was mounted with two 37mm guns. The P3 was mounted with two 37mm guns with a vertical tripod and more armor than the P2. The P4 was armed with a 50mm, and about 32 were built of this version. And probably the most ludicrously insane one is the Ju-88 P5 version, which has a single 88mm gun. Although none were built, so that's going to be interesting. But if built, this is going to be quite literally insane. But that said, that is all it for this plane, the Ju-88. Not a lot of information I could find about this plane, except for it was converted from a Ju-88 to put on these heavy guns, which is insane. But that said, let's go on to my personal favorite and probably the most insane out of all of these, and that is a 50mm. Now, you must be wondering, why is this 50mm so insane? It's because it was mounted on the Me-262. Yes, the first jet, well, should I say, one of the best jets in World War II. It was designed to carry, I kid you not, a single 50mm Mk124 cannon on the nose of the aircraft, and it was capable of firing armor-piercing rounds, of which the Me-262A1U4 version dates back to 1943 when the German Luftwaffe was looking ways to increase the firepower of the Me-262. The aircraft was already equipped with four, I kid you not, 30mm cannons, but was not powerful enough. Well, let's put it on steroids and give it a 50mm. The Me-262 was developed by modifying existing Me-262 frameworks, with the prototype being completed in March 1945. The aircraft has to be extensively modified to accommodate the large gun, including removal of the nose wheel, relocating the cockpit, and strengthening the airframe so it can withstand recoil of the gun. The Me-262A14U was capable of firing up to 8 rounds per minute, with each round capable of penetrating up to 80mm of armor at a distance of about 1,000 meters. However, that said, the aircraft's range and maneuverability were heavily impacted, as we can all see with all the previous vehicles. Only a small number was able to be produced, and most of them never saw combat. The aircraft's first flight took place in April 15, 1945, just weeks before the end of the war. Despite its service history, the Me-262A14U became one of the most interesting designs of any Me-262 and one of the interesting designs on this list. But that said, what do you think about these heavy guns mounted on planes? comment in the comment section down below of which one you would see in action, and give me other suggestions that I can work with in terms of weapon suggestions. But that said guys, that's all it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.